Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life. I hope everyone is doing very well, and I want to thank all of our current as well as the really decent number of brand new subscribers that we have to the channel. Please do me a favor and just say hello down in the comments area and let me know what type of content you like to see from this channel. And if you're here because of buttons, please let me know if you're a current collector or if you're a newer collector, or if you are here for more information, like what type of buttons do you like. Just please give me a little information, and I promise that some of you will definitely get a shout out. So I want to shout out right now Linda, who gave me some really excellent information on one of my These Are My Favorite Button videos. In those videos, I was not giving descriptions. I was just simply showing these are my favorite things. And Linda added some really nice comments behind that and some descriptors, which was really helpful, I'm sure, to someone out there. Also, once again, I would like to thank Sunshine 80 or 80 Sunshine, aka Susie, as well as Jill from down in Dixie, NOLA land, and anyone else that has left a comment or sent me something in the mail. You know, I don't have as much time as I had previously, simply because we have a graduation coming up, we have a retirement coming up, we have an anniversary coming up, as well as we're dealing with the sickness that's out in the world. And you guys know, if you've been following me for a while, my husband is a forensic specialist at a hospital. So yes, there's been a lot of things going on. Plus, hello, I am getting ready for the planting season. You guys should look at me. If there was a camera, a drone spying on me, the caption would be, how many times is this lady going to walk her acreage and her woods, poking and prodding and looking at things, because I'm so excited anytime I see a little green bud coming up out of the ground. And of course, I'm planning pretty much to plant some of the same things I planted last year, but a lot of brand new things. So thank you guys for tuning in, and let's get into it. What you are looking at right now is one of my absolute favorite in the entire world buttons. Disclaimer, I do not own this button. This picture is actually from eBay, and this button has come up for sale. Well, two separate buttons, which are this exact style, have come up for sale twice. One in definite rougher condition. You could tell if you ever find that picture by looking at the edge of it. It's like really chipped up pretty well. This one has a tiny bit of chipping, but not that much. And if you guys ever come across this button, remember me. It is my absolute favorite. It is my dream button on my list of top 10 that I would love to own one day. And I actually have an idea exactly as to what I would do with it, which would be to make a hat ornament or a hat pin out of it without changing it from being a button. So I would not damage it in any way, but I do have a way of creating a hat pin out of it. And so today's video is going to be all about antique black buttons. This is part 2 and the final in this part of me discussing like some of the buttons that I have in my own collection, as well as giving you guys descriptions or identifiers so that you know what you have, as well as if you are one of those people who collect and maybe you're whittling out your collection a bit, or even if you have a bunch of buttons, you don't know what they are, this video is one of many dozens that I have that should be able to give you some good descriptive information that you could use out in the world. So these are some more of my favorite buttons that I selected from my own collection. I have, like I told you guys, so I have hundreds and hundreds. Black glass buttons are some of my favorite with embellishments. So the ones that are plain, if they're cut in a particular way, like in a weird shape, a square even, I get into those as well. There's some I call them the knobbly ones, but they're more like a charm string style. I like those as well. I will actually show you one of those. This is a very old one. Actually, I will, there you go. See if I could put it on my little stylus there. There you go. You can see that, hopefully. So this style I like as well. And the reason I like these so much, I love the cuts, the faceting on it, of course. These are a high gloss, but also the fact that the shank is made in a way that you can actually use this for a lot of different things. So versus just using it as a button, you can actually, you know, create a lot of different things with this without damaging the button. Jewelry, for one, imagine these as drop earrings, you know, dangler earrings. That would be amazing. So there, like I said, lots of uses for those. So those I like as well. So yes, they're round, but they also have a weird feature being all the faceting. Also the fact that they are in the charm string style. So like I said, usually the black buttons that I like, they always have something extra to offer. Nothing wrong with being a little bit extra. So just to give you a little bit more information, because I know a lot of people watch these videos, you know, for informational purposes. And one of the things I wanted to go back and talk about were French jet or jet buttons. Jet simply means that the button was made from a fossil. So basically someone found fossilized wood or something. And if you know anything about the coal process, coal is basically fossilized wood, plant matter that has under pressure changed into a different substance. And that's what jet buttons are made out of. They're not as easy to find anymore. This is a jet button. And you could, it's pretty damaged, as when you find these, sometimes they are very damaged, because I partially helped with the damage, unfortunately, a little bit, because one of the ways to test whether or not you have a jet button is you would take it and you would simply draw it across a piece of paper or a tile. I suggest that if you do that test, use a white piece of construction paper, something with a little bit of texture, and do not draw it across a tile. That's how I damaged this one more than what it was already. It was already damaged, but now it's just damaged more. And usually what will happen is, if it is jet, it should leave a black line. If it leaves any other color, leaves no color, then it's definitely not jet. The other thing, of course, and I think I discussed this in a previous video, is looking at it under a magnifying glass. Or under a microscope is much better, but a magnifying glass can work as well. A very strong one, because or a loop, because what you're looking for are fissures, or you'll see that there's an actual texture to the jet itself, because it is technically, like I said, coming from a natural element. So there will be pores and different features there that you will be able to see, versus if you looked at something that was glass, it would just look smooth. It would have a different finish to it. The other thing is, with black buttons, most of them were made during the Victorian era. And the reason why is, when Queen Victoria, her husband Albert, died, mourning became a thing, if you will. I mean, people always mourned. but it wasn't, you know, necessarily something where they dressed a particular way or wore certain things to signify the fact that they were mourning, or someone would be able to look at them 3 months later and tell they were still in mourning. One of the things they would wear were black buttons, as well as black hair ornaments, jewelry, etc. Obviously clothing, you know, the typical things. So when you find black buttons, especially not all of these, but some that are like this, that's the era that most of them come from. Also, let me see. Something, and I did discuss this, I just want to make sure that I hit everything we need to hit upon quickly. The other thing to know is, and I did show some of these in my previous video, which will be attached right up here. You'll be able to click on the little exclamation point and see it. Czechoslovakia makes a lot of glass buttons, and I showed in my previous video what some of those buttons look like. So please reference that video, and the reason why is because those buttons are not as old. They're not necessarily brand new. I'm sure there are newer ones maybe being made, and honestly, they don't create a lot of brand new black buttons. The buttons that they create in mass are the ones that are a rainbow of bright and pastel colors. Or they'll do clear glass and inject other glass colors, you know, other colored glass into that glass. Right now, if you were to go out on eBay, you could actually buy, like I said, we are unedited here, so unlike other folks, we don't put fake and fancy behind our videos. So that was my sister calling, and all things must stop when sister calls. So let's get back into this. I'm just going to go into sort of looking at what I have on the table. And yes, all of these are buttons that I really adore. I can even call them favorites because you know me, I have like 10,000 favorites. But of course, as I stated previously, black glass buttons are some of my favorites, as long as there are embellishments or something else about them. So let's look at this one. This one has a very geometric, almost a tic-tac-toe like type board on it. And this button is actually called a whistler. And it's called a whistler simply because of the style of button. I've shown buttons like this in the past made out of other materials, and supposedly you are able to whistle using this button, and this is what the back should look like, and it has the 2 holes here. It has 1 hole, apologies, right in the center in the front. So if you have a button like this, it's called a whistler. This one obviously being a black high gloss geometric button. So this one, I should have looked up the date for whistlers, so I'm not really sure when this one is from, but I feel that it's from probably obviously the 1900s. And I have no idea why my whole camera system just moved. There's a ghost. Not that I believe in such things. Another type of button that I love are these highly stylized Regency buttons. These are Victorian buttons. They are absolute, look at them. I mean, the swirls, the little sloops and slopes and little designs, all are like someone took the time to, you know, style these, and then someone took the time to insert the gold filling that you see, which is basically a paint of some sort, a metallic paint. And even through all of these years, which is a very, very, very long time, look at the coloration, it's still there. So why is the color still there? I know I've had that type of question from people before. The reason that the color still will exist is simply because the buttons were not washed that often. And when they were washed, obviously someone took time and care. So the garment may have been hand washed, and then there was care to make sure, first of all, the buttons didn't go missing, but also to make sure that these buttons were not overly scrubbed or chipped or anything like that. And here I have, you know me, another favorite. This one, this round button, which I believe Jill gave to me. This button is absolutely, and you saw this in a previous video of favorites, and yes, I decided to put it back in a video. Why? Because of the enameling. So it has 3 different colors of enamel. Then it has a metallic paint around the outside with this little teeny tiny bead work all the way around the diameter of this button. Also, I don't know if you can really tell in this picture, but the button, this little like rectangular sort of center is raised. So once again, lots of work going into such a tiny, pretty implement. And this is one that I actually so I know one of the things that people have asked me, because I've mentioned it in my video where I kind of summed up last year, but more so I discussed, you know, things going forward for this year, what the plans are for the channel. And one of them is I needed to come up with a project. I sort of like having a button project every year. So I decided one of my button projects this year will be to create hat pins out of some of my favorite buttons. So why would I want to do that to a button? The reason why, there's a couple. One, I will not have to damage the buttons to create a hat pin. Secondly, I wear lots of hats. I always liked hats. I hate to say this, but it's not a bad thing. It's one of the positive things, a few, that I got from my father. So, you know, yeah, I'm a hat person. I just like hats. So having different hat pins, and I actually have hat pins already, it would be awesome to enjoy my buttons out in the world as well. And plus, how unique will these be as hat pins? Not all of these, obviously. But yeah, so that's one of my plans for a project. I am still working on the mechanics of it, testing it out on other buttons that obviously are just what I call my junk buttons, and it's okay if they like failed the test or whatever. Another button that I really enjoy, and this one came from Jill as well, is this beautiful 6-sided button, Insectagon. And look at the little knobbly bits in it. It sort of reminds me of the berry buttons, except for this is not a berry style button. And it has the same type of nodules, except for they graduate from being large, going down to the tiniest little bits in the center. Gorgeous, love it. And like I said, all of these are glass, so just in case someone is wondering, except for this one. Also, I have right here in the center, the 3 buttons you see here are highly stylized Victorian buttons, and these are honestly probably buttons that you could find a little more often out in the world, simply because these were more affordable for people. And if you wanted to wear something special for someone you were mourning, then you would obviously be able to embellish your outfit with buttons like this, and it wouldn't necessarily cost you a meal, an arm or a leg, whatever. But very pretty. Like, look at this, almost has a geometric. This one almost reminds me of something from the 1920s in design with that deco style. And then you have this one just very naturalistic, and this one with the flowing, sweeping lines of the floral matter that's on it. Beautiful. Another button I would like to feature is this one. I hate to say it, size matters in this case. This button is really large. It is chunky. It definitely has some weight to it. And the other thing that I love about it is the high gloss on it, and of course all of this amazing faceting. This button, another favorite, this knotted button. I mean, look at this. They not only knotted this, they kept going over and over and over and over again around in this beautiful circular pattern. And this is about the size of a little bit smaller than a $50, American $50, of course. But it's also another button that has quite a bit of weight to it. So buttons like this, and I'll even point out this third one, 1, 2, 3, but more so these, because especially this one, because of the weight. Excellent as a feature button on a jacket, or if you, like I do, yes, I have a cape. Actually, I have two. So if you have a cape, excellent. You know, you need that nice, bold, single button at the throat right there. That works. Also, you know, you could use this simply as other embellishment. For example, if you create jewelry, beautiful piece, as you know, you can actually hang this, and there is a mechanism that you could actually jerry-rig together to create a pendant. I actually learned that from someone else's videos. And then in here, one of my, another favorite style of button for me are these Lacy black glass antique buttons that, and they always usually have a brass shank on the back. Sometimes they're self-shanked. But I love, I mean, just look, and what I like about these really are the contrast. You have this sort of patternized, rougher, like, texture, and then you have this beautiful shiny glass that's presented on top. These are just so pretty, and also when you wear them, you also get a bit of that sparkle from it if you know you move in the right way. So I mean, these are just really nice, really amazing. They seem to me anyway not to be as easy to find anymore. I do have maybe 3 different styles of, this is one style, but I have 3 different styles of these. I'm showing these because these are actually the design I like the most out of all of them. You can get these in like as large as this button, obviously as small as this button, and sometimes you could find them a little bit smaller than this. Another button we are going to talk about is, oh, and actually there's a couple of them, are these buttons right here. I have to reach up and get something. And these are our golden luster or gold luster buttons. Okay, so once again, metallic. So one of the things to know is you can find buttons that might also have a silver or a coppery luster. So they did not just do a gold luster, but I do feel as if I'm going to find these, more often I will find the silver luster. Secondly, I will find the gold luster, and the harder to find will be an actual coppery looking copper luster. And what they did is they added that luster over obviously this stylized, designed black glass button. And why? Just another feature. It's simply a feature. And look at this one with the moon and the star, which I should have had it turned the right way so it looks like a moon and the stars. Oh, that's why, because it's going to roll. But anyway, this is another button that I like a lot, simply because of the simplicity of it and what it represents. You have the moon, you have the star. Also, there's some gold luster on there. It also features 2 different textures, which is always fun. And did I miss anything else I would really like to feature here? I don't think so. As you can see, I didn't point and go through every single button that you see here. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Here is a high gloss engraved button. Absolutely stunning. And look at this another favorite, the square button with this beautiful geometric type design in the center. And, you know, I remember like wondering, do these, like, does this mean something? I don't know. So if you have any idea, let me know if like this is a symbol for something. But this just seems so purposeful. It didn't seem as if someone just sat down and said, oh, I'm just going to make any old design. So let me know. Also, this shamrock or four-leaf clover shaped design button is another one that I actually, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, I find these pretty often. And the thing I like about these, and the reason I decided to put them back out here is, I mean, so chunky. The chunkiness is amazing. The shank is large, bold, in charge, self-shank tunnel style. And these I actually do have several of. Not only have I found them out in the wild, other people have and sent me some of them. I want to say maybe 2 different people have sent me some of these, as well as I already had some in my own collection. And I have an idea for making jewelry that I might embark upon using these buttons as a feature. And let's go to this one. I think we'll go, oh, we have to look at this one because, I mean, come on. Like, really? This one, love the enameling. Let's see if we can see it better. And on that one, what you have is this beautiful frame of enameling in a lot of different pastel, almost Easter-like colors. And then you could see the faceting, like when I move it lightly here in the center, and then there's like a light wash of enamel going across. I don't believe it's supposed to be filled in. I think this is how it's supposed to look. And then of course you have this little flourish to the left and the right in the center at the bottom. Absolutely stunning, and surprisingly, because this is a button I would assume would have a self shank on it, but it has a brass shank on it. So, you know, another button that would be great as a feature button on an outfit, where, you know, be right front and center, large in charge. And then this button is just magical. It is just so pretty, so well designed. Let me see, how is the shank? It's like that. So on the clothes, it would sit like this. Or you could turn it this way. So it's supposed to be square, not in the diamond shape. But once again, this has like a lot of different things to it. It sort of has a little bit of that lacy feel to it, but it also has the gold wash, but it also has some copper and a little bit of a silver highlight to it. And of course, just the shape of it as far as the square and little rectangles coming off. Did I say rectangles? Triangles coming off of the 4 corners, the little diamonds. I mean, just beautiful. And this is a applied shank in the back of brass. Just want this, I mean, you guys have to forgive me, but yeah, one of my favorites. So that is where I'm going to stop today as far as talking about black glass buttons. And I hope that you guys, you know, have some of these in your collection. If you do, let me know. If you don't, you know, maybe it's something that you will get into, hopefully. And also something just to be on the lookout for. Plus, if you are trying to figure out, you know, how to describe these buttons, whether it be for resale or otherwise, now you know. Something else I want you to know, this is, I guess, an insider tip I'm giving away, is if you're looking for buttons, there's a couple things. 1, please don't pay too much. 2, tag sale flea market season is opening up. I never really find thousands or hundreds of buttons at flea markets, and I don't really go to tag sales often at all. But this year I am going to embark upon a search of going to tag sales and going to flea markets to see if we can find anything. Like one flea market that we went to, and it's a flea market where I actually filmed a television show. I was in actually a star of a television show, my husband and I, for that. I actually found a ridiculously awesome number of buttons from this really nice fellow late in the season. So in my videos, I do give you guys clues and tips as to how you can actually either go mining for buttons or find them out in the wild without overly paying online. If you do decide to bid for buttons online, just have a limit and don't go over it. Once it gets to your limit, move on. There are a million buttons out there online that you can buy. Also, you might want to concentrate on a certain area of buttons. I know my friend Susie is excellent at that. Jill actually has been collecting for, I think, decades. And I think her name is Linda, who was kind enough to leave some information on one of my videos. You know, obviously she's a savant of buttons as far as having knowledge goes. So, you know, just kind of like study it before you just go out buying, because otherwise you might be disappointed and end up with a bunch of buttons that are not really meaningful to you. So as you can tell, I think anyway, in my collecting, I like specific things, and that's what I go for. I would also like to send a special heavenly shout out to my grandmother, who used to give me little buttons, bits and bobs, and because of that, I think that's why I like little things. So I don't need the big crazy stuff, and I won't like spell out which ones, but there's a few buttons that are out here that came from Grandma. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember that your health is your wealth, and without your health, you have absolutely nothing. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below just to say hello. If you watch, it only takes like a second. And I so appreciate it. I really, really do. And those of you that do that, you know what? I'm going to send out extra blessings and extra gifts from the universe, the gods, and Mother Nature to you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be well.